Hey, I'm Casey.
And I'm Lauren.
And this is
Magnum B.I, the true crime podcast where we add a bit of social justice commentary, a little bit of comedy, a little bit of banter.
Lauren just did a little, shimmy when she said that.
It's because I'm segueing into my, how I got over my clothing anxiety in Florida.
Yeah, please do. I've heard, the spark notes of this story, so please share.
Well, since this, I don't know, Casey hinted that this episode might be a little nasty, so we'll start off with something lighthearted. Long story short, when I was on vacation in Florida, I decided I was going to go boogie boarding in a Shein bathing suit. and, I don't necessarily wear things like that on a regular basis. I haven't gotten to that point in my girl bossing career where I'm confident enough to just do that unheated. But, my hubris, the sea decided it wanted to steal my suit.
You're saying all of this so poetically.
Because I think it's funny, and there's a moral to this story. So I go boogie boarding, I have a wardrobe malfunction. It's, I am already stressed out because I don't usually swim in the ocean. I kind of am not the biggest fan of salt water and, the waves and everything. Yeah. It was a lot. And I'm, getting out of the water. I'm trying to keep my sunglasses on my head, hold on to the boogie board, tie my swimsuit. I have my hand across my chest because there are children. And I'm trying really hard not to, have a full mental breakdown. And my little sister, bless her heart, comes up to me and goes, "You just splashed the whole beach."
Thanks.
And I was I was already on the verge of a freak out, and I was like, "What did you just say?" Full face crack, Regina George. However, all that being said, I think it did kind of cure my clothing anxiety, because I wore a skimpy bathing suit. I may have flashed a beach in Florida, but nothing bad happened.
Yeah, exactly.
The worst happened.
Yep.
And now I can do whatever.
Yep.
And it's whatever. So, moral of the story is wear a skimpy bathing suit and don't give a fuck.
Yep. Once you've hit the bottom, it's all up.
Exactly.
From there.
And, cherry on top, I was retelling the story to my dad and being like, moral of the story, I don't care anymore, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Well, if it makes you feel any better, there was a crowd of 8 teenage boys that appeared as you were trying to fix your swimsuit." And I was like, doesn't help, but thank you.
Doesn't even help a little bit. But
so,
that's so funny.
Like I said, clothing anxiety cured. Hopefully we're going to carry that energy with us into the rest of 2022.
Yes. And no more Shein bathing suits in the ocean.
Not for boogie boarding, no.
Not for boogie boarding.
For tanning, yes.
But
boarding, no.
if you do want to sponsor us, Shein, I'm not a fast fashion person. I think you're horrible for the environment and ethics. However,
give us money.
So today, I'm glad you got over your clothing anxiety. That's very exciting. It's all uphill.
I know. I'm excited. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to be wearing pasties and a thong to the bar next week. So I hope you're ready.
It'll be on the Magnum B.I Instagram.
You better follow awesome.
At Magnum B.I Pod.
All right, what do you got, Casey?
So speaking of bars.
Oh, excellent.
That's a really good segue.
Yes.
Nakedness and bars.
Awesome.
So this week we're going to be talking about not only a case, but a cultural phenomenon in the late 80s and early 90s.
Okay.
One you've probably heard of. I think a lot of people, especially queer people, have heard of, but might not know as much about. And it comes to a pretty disastrous end.
Oh, I have a guess.
What's your guess?
Low-rise jeans.
And they also come to a disastrous end.
Except I've seen the kids on TikTok. They're bringing back Y2K
Lauren,
fashion.
We were just talking about how we're getting so old. And she just said the kids on TikTok.
For TikTok standards, we are old.
We're so old.
We're ancient, but...
Someone's listening to this and they're like, "Shut up, children."
This is my dad listening to this.
Yeah. Hi, Dad. So this week, we're going to be talking about Micheal Alig and the Club Kids.
Ooh.
So before we get into Micheal Alig, we have to talk, and the Club Kids, we have to talk about the gay nightlife in New York City in the 1970s.
Okay.
So parties downtown in downtown Manhattan are raging in
Yes.
the 70s.
Yes.
Studio 54 is open for 3 years.
Yep.
And it forever changes the nightlife scene. Everyone dressed up every night. It was all about being very glamorous and beautiful and opulent. Andy Warhol at the time is all the rage.
Yep.
And he's assembled his group of superstars.
Yep.
Who are basically a bunch of like it girls and boys from whom Warhol would be inspired to make art. And these same superstars would follow him on the scene and socialize in all of the clubs. Disco music was at its peak. And then from a queer angle, as if all of this wasn't queer enough, this is right before AIDS and right after the gay liberation movement starts to really gain traction. So there's this total kind of blissful sense of hedonism and pleasure and recklessness. It's just this really good, carefree time to be young and gay and out on the city in Manhattan.
I would give anything to have like one night where I could like not even be involved, like a fly on the wall just to see that.
And like, because like there's photos of it, but just to like be there
To hear
and to
it.
smell it and hear it and oh my God, and the energy.
I know.
Yeah.
There's like, even like watching a documentary like Paris is Burning, there's so much gay culture that I just like want to consume.
Yeah.
And like it's and there's so much of it that we're never going to know about because of the AIDS epidemic. It's just it's so tragic.
Because so many of these people that are alive in the 70s doing all this are now died less than a decade later.
Yeah.
You know? So it's just, this was like very much the dawn of AIDS. There's a rat running on a wheel. Hey, stop it. He heard Studio 54 and he went running.
Not my rats being homophobic.
Anyway, so this whole thing in the 70s was great. Andy Warhol died on February 22nd, 1987. And this is the event, his death, which kind of sparked what some people have called the death of downtown.
Ooh.
So after his death, it really wasn't in vogue to party downtown as they had in the 70s. And not to mention, again, AIDS killed many of the people in these communities. And also just instilled fear in a lot of other people.
Yeah.
So the hedonism of the 70s came to a really abrupt end in the 80s.
Yeah.
So now, with that out of the way, we have to talk about Micheal Alig.
Okay.
So Micheal Alig was a man born on April 29th, 1966 in South Bend, Indiana. His mother recalled him being a very eccentric child. He had an obsession with horror movies and gore. He was very dramatic and often exaggerated the truth. But he was also remarkably smart and charming, which carried him through his whole life. In elementary school, Michael would sell candy bars at a 200% markup to make money. And he earned the name Michael the Candyman.
Wait, did you ever do anything like that in elementary school?
Remember the girls made duct tape wallets? I never did that. But...
Oh, no, I had a little business that I tried to start off the ground because I think there were girls in my elementary school that were doing duct tape wallets, and I was like, I'm going to come up with something better. So my idea was I was going to make these little pencil toppers that were like little animals. So I like made them out of tinfoil and I painted them to look like birds or fish or something.
Damn.
So it was like a little creature you could put on your pencil. But my teacher pulled me aside and was like, you can't sell things on school grounds without a license. And I was like,
without a license.
Okay, I mean, but don't you think these are cute? Don't you want one? And she's like, that's not what this is about.
The American dream is dead.
It really is. Young entrepreneur Lauren, crushed. Destroyed.
I wish you showed back up to school with a license.
Honestly,
and
yeah.
Like, do you want one?
Yeah, little like, oh God, how old was I? Little 7-year-old me, like, read it and wait, Becky.
Yeah. That's so funny.
Oh, that would have been crazy.
Michael the Candyman had the same idea.
Yeah, he did.
And despite having a reputation for being this like bizarre gay outsider, Michael graduated in the top 8% of his class in 1984, and he moved to New York City to attend Fordham.
Nice.
While in school in college, he got a job as a server at a club called Danceteria,
Okay.
which was a club in the Garment District that was known as one of the centers in New York City of new wave music.
Okay.
This job in Danceteria made him develop a love and a respect for nightlife, and he started educating himself in the business.
Okay.
Michael starts hosting small parties of his own, and soon after, he drops out of college to become a full-time party promoter.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a job.
Oh, it was a job, let me tell you. You'll hear.
No shit.
He made a whole living out of parties.
Wow.
So, in 1987, again on February 22nd, Warhol dies.
Yep.
As I said, coupled with the raging AIDS epidemic and the death of so many people, it completely changes the face of New York City nightlife.
Yep.
Micheal Alig makes it his goal to take Warhol's spot in the nightlife downtown scene.
Interesting.
Thus, the club kids are born.
No, what? He's the guy?
He's the guy.
Oh, wow.
Micheal Alig was like I don't want to say father of the club kids, but he was very, very influential in bringing them to light.
No shit.
So you might wonder, what are the club kids? Well, I'm going to start with a quote, which I believe is from Michael Musto, and I'm going to I didn't cite it. I'm going to hate myself if that's not true. But he said, we were all going to become Warhol superstars and move into the factory. The funny thing was that everyone had the same idea. Not to dress up, but to make fun of people who dressed up. We changed our names like they did, and we dressed up in outrageously crazy outfits in order to be a satire of them. Only we ended up becoming what we were satirizing. Satirizing?
Satirizing?
Satirizing.
I see where you were going.
I promise I'm smart. Satirizing.
Just a couple extra syllables.
I would have ended on such a punch there.
Oh yeah, satirizing? Sagittarius.
Exciting.
Exciting.
You know what I meant.
Yep.
So what are the difference between Andy Warhol's superstars of the 70s and early 80s and this new generation of club kids in the late 80s and 90s? So whereas the Warhol superstars and the 1954 scene was all about elegance and glamour and disco, the club kids were DIY, they were gender fuck, they were gory, they listened to house music, they were just very much like not punk rock, because it wasn't directly punk rock, but it was a more like punk kind of in your face view of this whole world. So the club kids and Michael starts throwing small parties in the back rooms of lesser known clubs, including Danceteria, where he worked. And he's just trying to bring this new scene up and have it become the thing. Eventually, Michael meets a man named Peter Gatien. So Peter Gatien was a businessman and a club owner who owned clubs across the U.S. and abroad. Michael made it a point to get to know Peter, since he wanted his parties to be on a bigger stage.
Yeah.
In 1988, Peter Gatien took note of Michael's growing resume, and he hired him to work at Limelight.
Okay.
So, have you heard of Limelight?
I'm going to assume it's a club.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was a very important club for these people. It was actually an old church on 6th Avenue. It looks like a church. Like from the outside, you would think it's a church. But Peter Gatien had purchased it and turned it into a club.
They ossified it.
They ossified the church.
Yeah, they did.
And it was like the place to be.
Oh, I bet.
For the club kids. It became a really big, huge mecca for the club kids scene. There, at Limelight, Michael started hosting his Disco 2000s parties.
What?
Which was a once-weekly Wednesday night party that had a dancing chicken work the door.
Nice.
People were locked in cages.
Oh, wow.
And guests stripped on stage for a hot body contest.
Whoa. When was this?
This was the late 80s. This was like 88, 89 when it started.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Michael also started the bloodbath parties.
Oh.
In which everyone was drenched in blood. There were fake organs and dead bodies all over the floor. People would pretend to eat each other.
Ew.
Yeah.
Oh.
And also, let's make a cultural note, too. And this has been pointed out online. This isn't an original thought, but this is during AIDS. Bad AIDS. like thick of AIDS.
Oh
and
my
this
God.
obviously isn't real blood that they're putting all over the place, but it's very much like a fuck you
Yeah.
to the system to be like dancing in blood.
Yeah. Wow.
A bunch
holy
of
shit.
gay people dancing in blood.
Yeah, that's very poignant.
It's very poignant.
Ooh.
It's very like nihilistic and like just, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's heavy.
It's heavy. So to gain attention for these clubs and for his parties, Michael and his fellow club kids would host guerrilla-style outlaw parties. They called them the outlaw parties, in public places. So, for instance, dressed in their, like, ridiculous, over-the-top, insane outfits, they would crowd onto a subway with a boombox and just turn it into a party.
Oh, like a flash mob.
Yeah, no, a flash party, essentially.
That's sick.
And no one was expecting it. No one knew it was coming. They just
yeah.
planned it and they went.
Holy shit.
But they did the same thing at a McDonald's. They did it at a Dunkin' Donuts and other public places.
That's crazy.
They would just go and turn up. Mm-hmm. And it worked. Michael became the superstar of the club kid scene. And his parties were the place to be. He knew everyone and everyone wanted to know him. And the club kids were featured on the Joan Rivers show and on Geraldo.
Holy shit.
Yep.
Damn, okay.
So they made it.
Let's go, Michael.
Let's go, Michael. Michael was charming and electric and exciting to be around, and he gave out a lot of free drugs.
Oh.
And therefore deeming himself the name Michael the Candyman again.
Oh, ick.
So about the drugs.
Oh, no. Not the drugs.
Also, trigger warning, I will say this episode, other than murder and gore, doesn't have any super heavy triggers other than drug use.
Okie dokie.
So gore and drug use, be aware of those things. But the drugs were all over these clubs and these parties. And we're not just talking about like alcohol and weed and some coke. Ketamine was like huge in the scene.
In the 80s?
in the 90s, the 80s and 90s. It was huge.
Wow.
DMT and shrooms and acid and meth were all passed around the dance floor.
This is like one of those things where it's like one of these things is not like the other.
Yeah.
Meth?
I stuck that one in there.
Okay, meth.
And heroin was becoming increasingly more popular in the scene.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, obviously the Studio 54 1970s scene had drugs too, but not to this level.
They did a lot of coke, right?
They did a lot of coke.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, there's probably also there's like a racial element to be talked about there too, where like we think about them doing coke in the 70s and we're like, oh, they were just having fun. And then there's like more people of color in this scene probably, and it's, you know, more, but whatever.
Yep.
Objectively, there were harder drugs at these parties.
Right.
Whatever they could get their hands on, they took it.
Okay.
So drug dealers became regulars at the parties, and they were often even on Peter Gation, the owner of the club's payroll.
Oh, wow.
And the parties were nothing without drugs.
That in and of itself is also extremely nihilistic.
Yeah.
That's dark.
For the owner of the club to have the drug dealers on the payroll.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With this, obviously, many of the club kids, including Michael, became heavily addicted to drugs.
That'll do it.
It'll do it. And especially because his lifestyle not only permitted, but encouraged it. You know, he was
Heavily.
making a living off of these parties.
Yeah.
And the parties were nothing without drugs.
That's sad.
It's really sad.
Yeah.
It is really sad. But he, I will say, didn't mind. Like, he was not about to stop doing drugs.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if that's your livelihood and that's what you make yourself out to be and that's who you are, I guess all you can do is be that person.
And I would say, as long as you're not hurting anybody, but we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially with the harder substances involved, you can't factor that in completely, or factor it out completely, I should say.
Exactly. And also, many of the club kids lived communally in the Chelsea Hotel or other downtown places. So they were just morning to night. They were just surrounded by drugs.
Oof.
One of the drug dealers in this scene was a man named Andre or Angel Melendez.
Okay.
So Angel was born in Colombia in 1971. He was inspired by the club kids after he'd seen them on TV, and then he moved to New York City in 1990 to be a part of the world.
Wow.
So he very much was inspired by them and wanted to be a part of it.
That's crazy. I cannot imagine 2022 seeing Oh God, like Teen 10
Yeah.
on TV. Horrible example, but like you know, you see the it kids and you're like, I want to be like them. I'm gonna move to America. You uproot everything and you're like, fuck it, I'm going where they are.
Yeah.
And actually doing it and getting there, that's crazy.
And it's again, to America. Like if the two of us, if there was a big scene in New York City we wanted to be a part of, we would move 3.5 hours. We would be there. It would be fine. Yeah. This man moved from Colombia to be a part of this world.
Man, they must have had some crazy costumes on the Joan Rivers show.
Oh, there's a clip. There's videos of that and Geraldo online. Crazy.
Oh,
Michael's a part of it. And RuPaul's in one of them.
What?
Yeah, because RuPaul was a part of this world.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm googling.
I think RuPaul's on the Geraldo one. I think.
Okay.
She looks busted.
Oh, I bet she does.
But anyway.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Angel was hired by Peter Gatien to work at Limelight, and he began selling drugs at the parties. To maintain a close connection with the drugs, Michael befriended the drug dealer Angel.
Right.
So then into town comes Rudy motherfucking Giuliani.
Oh, wait.
Not okay.
Wait.
Rudy Giuliani doesn't come into the club kids scene. Is not what I'm saying.
Did we just out Rudy Giuliani?
Rudy Giuliani's on the Joan Rivers show. No.
Oh my fucking God.
Kind of the opposite.
What is this asshole doing here?
So on January 1st, 1994, Rudy Giuliani is elected mayor of New York City.
Yeah.
Among other things, he promises to crack down on nightlife and clean up the city.
Oh, yeah, of course he does.
And he sterilized the city.
Oh, come on, Rudy.
Rudy. So Peter Gatien is under a lot of scrutiny from the new Giuliani administration.
Yep.
And he's forced to fire both Michael and Angel.
Of course, yeah.
But he pays for Michael to go to rehab.
Oh.
So in September of 1995, Limelight is shut down, and Peter Gatien, the owner, was investigated for racketeering and the selling of drugs.
Yeah.
After Michael's failed stint in rehab, Michael invites Angel, who is now homeless, to live with him and his roommate, Freeze.
Okay.
So now there's Michael, Angel, who's the drug dealer from Colombia, and Michael's roommate, Freeze, all living together.
Okay.
Many people on the scene wondered why Angel would go live with Michael, because Angel had lots of connections and friends and other people he could crash with.
Yeah.
And Michael, after the closing of Limelight and Peter Gatien's arrest and all these things, Michael is on a total downward spiral.
Yeah.
And it was really obvious, and the situation just seemed really toxic. And then on March 17th, 1996, Angel disappears.
Ooh, oh no.
So, however, Michael continues hosting his parties.
Of course he does.
And now he's selling Angel's drugs at the clubs.
No.
Red flag.
No.
Red flag.
That's a red flag.
Yep.
Oh.
So now rumors are flying all around the club kid scene, suspecting that Michael was somehow involved in Angel's disappearance.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
There, the line you draw between two dots. You know.
It's clear.
It's clear.
They were roommates. He's selling his drug, and they were roommates.
Dude, our minds.
Our connected.
Minds.
The line between two dots.
You know, if we ever make merch, that'll be on the shirt.
Perfect.
Excellent. Great.
Maybe if Shein sponsors us.
Throwback to episode 5. Or wait, was that this episode?
I don't know. We're
shit.
doing 2 in one day. We're tired. But rumors are flying all around the scene, suspecting that Michael's involved in Angel's disappearance.
Yep.
Michael, however, was the king of the scene and the Candyman, so no one really held him to it.
Yeah.
One evening, in a chilling tone, Michael, quote unquote, sarcastically admitted to his friend James St. James that he had killed Angel.
Oh no.
In fact, Michael was going to all of his parties and telling everyone that he killed Angel. In fact, he would tell, quote, anyone who would listen.
And nobody thought to do anything about it?
Well, most people think he's lying. Because Michael has a really sick sense of humor. He's a severe drug addict. And he loves drama and attention.
Oh, God. God. That is the perfect storm.
Yep.
That's horrible.
So they're all high out of their minds. They're partying. Mm-hmm. This guy is super dramatic as it is, and they all just think he's like being hyperbolic and making a really bad joke.
Oh.
Yep.
I'm gonna assume he's not joking. I'm gonna draw another line.
Yeah. Draw a line, go on a limb. Yeah.
Okay, yep.
So one evening, Michael and one of his club kid friends flee New York City and they go on a road trip.
Okay.
They drive to Indiana to see Michael's mother, who it seems like he was very close with throughout his entire life, which is really interesting, because imagine your kid who's now this like famous crazy club promoter in New York City who is on TV shows dressed insane and stuff.
And is a drug addict.
Very clear drug addict.
Yep.
And now he just shows up in Indiana and is like, "Hi, Mom."
Hi.
But Michael and his friend, they drive there. They drive to Denver.
Yep.
At some point in this trip, Michael and his friend break into a veterinarian office to steal horse tranquilizers and use them to get high.
Ketamine.
And and they did it.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
They returned to New York City later after running out of heroin.
Okay.
Michael continues hosting parties, and the club kids keep coming, even though everyone is getting really suspicious of Michael and his weird, eerie behavior. He continues telling everybody that he killed Angel and continues acting really erratically. This is horrid. He hosts a party with an invite that pokes fun at the murder.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like the invite made fun of the murder, essentially.
Oh my God.
So
Michael.
By September of 96, 6 months after Angel went missing, the police still hadn't questioned Michael about the murder.
Nice work, guys.
Nice work.
New York City police.
This guy is going around telling everyone that he killed this man.
Our boys in blue.
Love and he's like the biggest on the scene, too. And he was Angel's roommate.
Yeah. Like, of all the people to suspect, that is numero uno.
Yep.
He's like, I did it. And the cops are scratching their fucking heads like, I wonder.
Yeah. And 6 months later, they haven't asked him any questions.
This happened. That just makes me so fucking mad.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Instead, they were focused on Peter Gatien, the former owner of Limelight, who had already been investigated on suspicion of racketeering and drug possession. They put all their energy into him.
Okay.
Though people in the scene are really starting to believe that Michael did it.
Yeah.
They're thinking that he's just going to get away with murder.
I mean, yeah, because as fucked up as it is, the cops in this era, and the cops now, honestly, are probably not going to care about a drug-addicted gay person of color mysteriously disappearing, which is so fucked up. They don't even think to be like, you know what, we should ask the guy that's singing it from the rooftops.
Yep. Yeah.
Which, oh my God.
And Giuliani already wants nothing to do with, he wants the clubs to be totally abolished.
Yep.
He wants nothing to do with that world.
Yep.
And it's just like, this is an immigrant who went missing, a drug dealer immigrant. It's like no big deal, you know? And they already have one guy arrested for drug stuff, so they're just going to press him and try to pin it on him, you know?
Casey, I'm heated.
Oh, you're going to get more.
Casey,
you're going to get more. You're going to get more.
Okay.
Okay. So, this whole thing kind of comes to a head in September of 96 when children playing in the water on Staten Island find a box containing not a body, but the legless torso of a man.
The torso?
The legless torso.
Oh.
A homeless woman later found the remaining parts.
Oh, that is foul.
The coroner identified this body as 24-year-old Angel.
Oh, God, that poor man.
Michael hears the news, and also, imagine being Angel's parents in Colombia. Your kid went, I don't know how close he was with his parents, but your kid goes to New York City. He's already a part of the scene that you are seeing on TV and you're afraid of.
Yeah.
And then he's dismembered and put in a box in the Hudson River.
Literally any parent's worst nightmare.
Oh my God.
I cannot even imagine the turmoil that they must have gone through, you know. Oh, that just breaks my heart.
And he was
breaks my
just
heart.
like, he was 24. He was such a, not that this has anything to do with it, but he was such like a good looking guy. Like it sucks. It really, really sucks.
2 years older than us.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And he had stints of experiencing homelessness too. So yeah. Michael hears the news that this box was found in the river, and he flees New York City again, this time with his boyfriend, who is a drug dealer.
Okay.
And the two move together into hiding.
I see a pattern.
Yeah. In September of 96, so I think 3 months after the body was found, the police find Michael and his boyfriend in a motel room in New Jersey, and they arrest him.
Oh, Jersey.
Oh, Jersey.
Oh, Jersey.
It was on the shore, too.
Oh.
Yep. Michael and his roommate, Freeze, were both arrested for the murder.
Okay.
After sentencing and trialing and all that. They were offered a plea bargain, and they were sentenced to between 10 and 20 years in prison for first-degree manslaughter. Not murder, manslaughter.
We're circling right back to the Gilbert Paul Jordan thing, where
Yep.
it's like, manslaughter charge.
These are two white guys.
Yep, of course.
So what happened to Angel?
Yeah.
And now again, the trigger warning for gore. I don't usually do gory cases. This is grisly.
Okay, Casey.
But on that March night in 96, Michael and Angel in Michael's apartment got in a really bad fight about money.
Okay.
Angel owed Michael money for rent. Michael owed Angel money for drugs.
Oh.
According to Freeze, the other roommate, the third roommate, and Michael's accomplice,
Yep.
Angel was holding Michael down and shaking him, and Angel was threatening to break Michael's neck if he didn't give him the money. And again, that's according to Freeze.
Yes.
Freeze came into the room, saw this happening, and hit Angel over the head with a hammer.
A hammer?
A hammer.
He didn't think to try...
To push him.
to do literally anything other
to hit his leg.
Blunt force fucking trauma to the head.
And also, why do you have a hammer?
Yeah, what are you doing with a fucking hammer?
Do you know how long it would take me to find a hammer? I would have to go searching for the hammer.
Oh my god, I think I would have just tackled him. That would have been so much easier.
Anything.
Oh,
or throw a
Christ.
glass at it. I mean,
literally
anyway.
anything. It'd be like, hey,
Yeah.
cut that out.
And again, that's Freeze's story, and Angel's not here to defend himself.
Okay, yeah, of course.
Michael, and then this. So Michael and Freeze were so high and out of their minds.
Michael and Freeze?
Yeah.
Okay, not Angel, though.
I don't know if Angel was, but Angel's dead at this point.
Right.
But Michael and Freeze, at least, after Angel's dead, after he's hit with a hammer, are so high and out of their minds. This is so grisly. They pour chemicals, drain cleaner, down his throat.
Oh my god.
They duct tape his mouth, and they suffocate him with a pillow.
Are you? Oh.
So they're making sure he's dead. But it's manslaughter.
Oh.
Like the hammer, if it was, I feel so like disrespectful and gross talking about this, but if it was the hammer and they were like, oh my god, he's dead, that's manslaughter.
That's an accident.
That's like
so many
spur of the moment,
drugs.
self-defense, drugged.
Yes.
But they poured drain cleaner and wrapped him with duct tape.
Oh, chills.
And then they left the body in the bathtub for a week to decompose before dismembering it and throwing Angel's body in the Hudson River.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I can't, Number one, I can't imagine any of this ever occurring at all. I'm malfunctioning. Number two, I can't imagine leaving the person that you knew for however many years.
Your
that
roommate.
you killed.
Yeah.
In your house for a week.
Your roommate, your coworker, yeah.
Oh my god.
Quote unquote coworker.
Yeah, you know.
So Michael spent most of his sentence at Rikers Island, which is crazy.
Yeah.
He told his friend and a fellow club kid and a journalist named Michael Musto. Michael Musto also was really big in bringing Angel's disappearance to light in like the public eye.
Good.
He told Michael Musto, quote, I know why, Michael said this, quote, I know why I blabbed. I must have wanted to stop myself. I was spinning out of control. It's like the old saying, what do you have to do to get attention around here? Kill somebody?
Oh, God.
Sociopath.
Yeah, that's not dark humor. That is, that is like at least 10 years in therapy.
Yeah. Like
minimum.
The first part is fine. Like, I know why I did it. I know why I blabbed. I must have wanted to stop myself. I was spinning out of control. Like, that's fine. That's valid. That's self-reflection. That's whatever. What do you have to do to get attention around here? Kill somebody?
That is just so insensitive.
Like, bro.
That is awful.
Throughout Michael's sentence, and he spent some of his sentence in like the very northern parts of New York.
Okay.
So he was in upstate for a little while.
Oh, no. No.
But throughout his sentence, Michael was repeatedly caught doing drugs in prison.
What? How?
And because of that, he spent a total of 2.5 years in solitary confinement.
Oh no.
Throwback.
Reykjavik Confessions time. Oh, that's bad.
While he was in prison, Party Monster, which is a biographical film in which he is portrayed by Macaulay Culkin.
What?
Yeah.
Holy shit. Home Alone.
It's not good.
Ooh.
It's bad.
Wait.
It's like objectively bad. I've seen it.
I was going to say, I would watch that.
No,
that sounds crazy.
we could watch it, but it's bad.
Okay.
But it was released. And that's kind of sucked for him because he was such a sucker for fame and attention.
Yeah.
And then he was getting it, but in like a weird, removed way. You know what I mean?
Well,
like
good.
he
Fuck
couldn't.
This guy.
No, yeah, but like for him personally, it was just, you know.
Yeah.
His fellow club kids, such as RuPaul and Amanda Lepore and James St. James, all went on to have really lasting and phenomenal careers, which they were not in prison for, which they could appreciate and enjoy.
Yeah, no shit.
When he was released on May 5th of 2014, he came out with an absolutely ridiculous and campy pop song, which I'll play for you later.
No. No. He fucking, oh my God.
And
if it's named Candyman.
It's not, but it literally, like, it might as well be.
I swear to God.
And it's, like, so stupid because it's, like, you can tell that, like, he's been in prison for X amount of years, like, for multiple decades, because it's, like, very much, like, house music. Like, it's just bad.
Yeah, like a person, trapped in time.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Trying to relive, yeah. He was arrested again in 2017 for doing meth in the Bronx.
Oh, my God.
And later released. On Christmas Eve of 2020, Michael was found dead in his Washington Heights apartment. So recently, less than 2 years ago, year and a half ago.
Ugh.
He had overdosed on heroin, and he also had fentanyl and meth in his system.
Ugh.
After his death, the club kids kind of faded into obscurity. Or not even after his death, after Angel's death.
Yeah.
The club kids faded into obscurity. Many also, again, died of AIDS. But then many went on, like I said, Amanda Lepore, RuPaul, James St. James. They went on to be really talented and important queer artists. And so Michael's very first boyfriend, who he also made the pop song with later, was a man named DJ Kioki.
Okay. And
DJ Kioki has a quote about the whole thing that I think really wraps it up really well.
Okay.
But he says, quote, "In his own weird, twisted way, he's even gotten what he really wanted, to be famous, super famous."
Oh, chills. Ugh.
So I just think that's like an important story to look at, because not only is there police negligence around, a white man killing an immigrant man of color.
Yep.
But also it's just, this is a really important part of queer history.
Yep.
That I think a lot of people cite, and it really influenced music, and it really influenced pop culture and fashion and nightlife. And it really came to this horrible, devastating end, just like the hedonism of the 70s came to a terrible end with AIDS. The club kids era came to a terrible end with this like super grisly murder.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a really interesting study to look at.
Yeah. I mean, I had like heard peripherally of the club kids. I mean, I've seen Paris is Burning, and I know like of some queer history, just, being a part of the community itself. But obviously I didn't know anything about Michael until now. And I'm sad knowing that, this is that he had such a big role for what he did and what, he's done. But I mean, it's good to know.
Yeah.
So that, it doesn't happen again.
So it doesn't happen again. And it could so easily, something like this probably will happen again. So it's just,
Because, there are a lot of problems with substance abuse and drugs within the gay community. You know, it comes with the territory of being, you know, misunderstood and having, you know, tougher relationships with parents or family members, culture, what have you. People turn to substances. It happens. It is what it is. But I don't think that has to define anything to do with, you know, what we are, what the community is. And I'm happy that at least now, you know, that we're moving on from that and we're somewhat in the future. I don't know, what is that, like, how many years in the future are we? 40?
Don't ask me.
I can't do math. But at least now, you know, things are getting better.
Yeah. And I mean, also that's the issue with having the only, like, safe space and the only space where you can really be, like, eccentric and yourself.
Yes.
Also a space where you're encouraged or required, in the case of, like, a club, to buy alcohol, buy drugs, like, you know, like, that's...
Yeah, there definitely need to be more safe spaces for queer kids growing up. Like, even if it's something as dorky as, you know, like a GSA on campus or a coffee shop, you know, where, like, someone puts a little pride flag in the window. Yeah. It's a lot better to have more spaces where people can be themselves and not have to, you know, partake in things like that.
And there, I mean, I don't see so much wrong with responsibly using drugs. Necessarily, but it's just when it gets to this level that everyone in the club is addicted and your whole livelihood revolves around it, it just becomes what we just listened to.
It shouldn't be synonymous. That's the thing.
Yeah. So that's Micheal Alig and the Club Kids. Well, thanks for listening.
Thank you for sharing that with me. I think that was a really important case to discuss, and I'm glad we did.
Thank you. I feel good about it.
Yeah.
It's been very interesting to me for a very long time, so.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I heard peripherally about, like, the club kids and some, like, little pieces and parts going into that, but having Michael at the forefront definitely changes things a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
It changes the whole story.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us about your case for next week, Lauren?
Next week, I'm going to be doing a case study on this guy named Henry Lee Lucas. He might be, well, he's a con man.
Okay.
There's some police negligence involved, and there is a little murder involved, but I honestly think that the case is kind of funny.
Okay.
And we'll talk about it more next week, and you'll see why.
Okay. I'm excited. I know nothing about this man. What time period are we talking?
Ooh, recent.
Okay.
I think it's like 60s or 70s.
All right.
But don't quote me on that.
Damn, I'm excited.
Yeah,
okay.
This will be interesting.
Now I guess Lauren's middle name.
Everyone's favorite game.
Oh. Wait, we could trademark that.
Yeah, put it on a shirt.
Okay, your middle name.
Yep.
B.E.
B.E.
I have a good one.
Okay.
Benita?
No. Like, do you mean B-E-N-I-T-A?
Yeah. Because I guess Bonita.
Bonita.
But now I'm saying Benita.
Benita. No.
Damn. God, I might just never get it.
It is a very weird one. I'm not going to lie.
Maybe at the end of season 1, if I don't get it by then, you should just tell me.
A reveal.
A reveal.
Honestly, that's not a bad idea.
We have a whole episode. Like, we just have a reveal
we
episode.
We have a whole episode. We pop champagne. It's time.
Lauren's middle name game.
Woo. Woo.
Woo.
Woo. Everybody's favorite
Everybody's
game.
favorite game. The world will never be the same.
I can't wait until we do an entire episode where you just sing to me.
While we talk about crime.
Yeah, no, I'm like, oh, wow, Casey, that's beautiful. And you're like, and then they poured drain cleaner down the throat.
Stop.
So horrible. Sorry.
Anyway, before we get canceled.
Oh, yeah, no shit.
Thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Magnum B.I. Bye-bye.
Bye.